and we're going to discuss processed meat and the issues regarding the consumption of processed meat. We will also be giving recommendations for what we think you should do if you are consuming large amounts of processed meats in your diet, and giving you advice on how to get around it. In 2015, the World Health Organization issued a report claiming that processed meat directly causes colorectal cancer. This report was used wisely in news headlines and magazine articles, bringing the nation to a scare. However, was this a necessary scare? And what is the truth about meat and how much we should be eating?
First of all, we will be answering the question of what is processed meat. Processed meat can be traced back over 3,500 years ago to the Babylonians and the ancient Chinese, who produced. The ideas of processing meat became increasingly popular over time, with the methods of doing so continuously developing. Processed meat in simple terms is meat that has been modified to either extend its shelf life or change the taste. Some of the commonly used methods of extending a meat shelf life or taste include, but not limited to, adding salt or preservatives, curing or smoking. Typical forms of processed meat are red meats, especially pork products such as bacon and sausages. These kind of products are very popular in the UK and are a part of many people's diets, meaning that it came as a huge shock when the World Health Organization labelled it as carcinogenic.
This leads us on to the next question, which may have cropped up in your mind. So why exactly is processed meat harmful? This is the so-called sciencey bit, so pay attention. The main components which pose a danger to humans are nitrates, which are added to the meat in order to prevent contamination. However, these nitrates which are added to the meat are sources of nitroso compounds, which are known carcinogens. Hence, the World Health Organization has placed processed meat in Group 1, a category which is used when there is sufficient evidence of carcinogenicity in humans. But do you know what else is placed in this group? That's right, cigarettes. But is this fair? And is eating processed meat place you at the same risk of cancer smoking does us?
Now we will be discussing how much processed meat is actually dangerous and how much you need to eat to place you at a serious risk of developing colon cancer. The government recommends an intake of fewer than 50 grams of processed meat per day. Any more than this amount will give you a much greater risk of developing cancer. But very few people are having, for example, bacon sandwiches every morning, so this amount of processed meat isn't actually being consumed by many people, so the issue of processed meat is not as big of a deal as the media portrays. If you are consuming more than the recommended intake of processed meat, cutting down is not as hard as many people may think. Typically, making small swaps to the diet instead of making transformative changes may be beneficial, such as replacing all kinds of processed meats in the diet with less expensive, high in fibre and low in fat vegetables such as chickpeas, kidney beans, peas, butter beans, baked beans and haricot beans.
Another question which needs answering is the idea of potential alternatives to using nitrates in meat processing. Are nitrates the only way to preserve meat? One of the ways in which the meat industry is trying to get around the dangers of nitrates in their products is by using natural sources of nitrates. For example, celery juice and spinach extract are widely used as preservation instead of your typical nitrates. However, these extracts still contribute towards nitrosamine formation, meaning that they have a carcinogenic property. According to Schenker, 2019, though celery juice concentrate is a vegetable product, it does possess naturally occurring nitrates. It also has a minimal pigment and a mild taste that does not detract from the meat's flavour. The use of celery juice is a step in the right direction. However, Schenker does conclude that it still solves the problem of nitrates in processed meat.
So what can you eat instead of processed meat? McRae 2019 asserted that swapping red meat for fish can cut the risk of early death. McRae also quoted research that suggests the risk of early death can be cut by a quarter of people who replace all sorts of processed meat in their meal with eating fish once a day. Furthermore, eating fish are not in particularly beneficial than eating sausages. 1 or 2 slices of bacon for fish lower the risk of death in the next 8 years by 25%. Also, the issue of fast and convenient food means that the nation is consuming vast amounts of processed meat just because it is quick and easy. We would advise to prepare meat at home and spend that little extra time cooking your own food instead of eating food on the go from places such as McDonald's, which sell large amounts of processed meat products.
Also, plant-based diets and veganism are becoming increasingly popular across the nation. The Vegan Society asserted that orders for vegan meals grew 388% between 2016 and 2018. They are now the UK's fastest growing takeaway choice. Also, the demand for meat-free food in the UK is increased by up to 987% in 2017, and going vegan was predicted to be the biggest food trend in the entirety of 2018. The number of vegans in Great Britain quadrupled between 2014 and 2019. In 2019, there were over 600,000 vegans, or 1.16% of the entire UK population, 276,000 in 2016, and 150,000 in 2014. However, we are aware that asking people to turn vegan is unrealistic, and many people, including ourselves, would not be willing to do so. But having one day per week without having meat can have some serious environmental and also physical health benefits. An environmental impact of eating processed meat lies at the lungs of the planet, the Amazon rainforest. Farmers are eradicating huge areas of the landscape by chopping down and burning large sectors of the forest in order to graze their cattle for the production of meat, which is found in the food products we find on our supermarket shelves. So this means that eating processed meat doesn't only have an effect on our physical health, but also the health of the planet and well-being of our world.
In conclusion, we are suggesting that consumers of processed meat should be wary of its dangers and to make an active effort to cut down their intake of processed meat through several methods. First of all, balancing the consumption of processed meat, increasing consumption of white meat or fish, cooking meat from fresh, adhering to government recommendations of 50 grams a day. Also, by reducing consumption of fast food and ready meals, and cooking your own meals, you can dramatically reduce the amount of processed meat in your diet.
Also, by replacing meat with foods such as lentils, beans and pulses, can increase the dietary fibre intake as well as the protein infusion from processed meat. This means that it will put you at less of risk of diseases such as colon and bowel cancer, as well as creating less of a demand for processed meat products on the supermarket shelves, which will have a positive environmental impact.
Finally, we will show you our list of references and all of the sources of our information that has been gathered to create our recommendations for the intake of processed meat in your diets.
And this concludes the screencast by Joe, Sam and Adenike about the recommendations after the World Health Organization's report of 2015, which links processed meat to colon cancer. Hope you enjoyed.